All right, it's Jimmy back in the garage. Today's March something, I don't know. It's been busy. My last video was in December. It's been a minute, obviously, been busy, school, other things. But that means I've also been working on the truck, don't worry. So I have some more things to show y'all on the truck. Now, my last video was talking about how my transmission had been rebuilt and but it still wasn't shifting. So what we'd done is we'd figure out the vacuum pump wasn't going right. Now the vacuum pump was working good enough, it's just we had leaks in the hoses. So we did, just in case, because we thought it might have been the vacuum pump too, not just the lines, we did get a new top end for it. We are going to put that on eventually. Now there's a lot of things I say that's going to get put on eventually, but that we just have right there, and it's just a couple bolts, so that will be put on pretty soon. You can see right there, this is the vacuum pump's diaphragm. This is the hose coming off. We replaced that going down into the transmission, so it shifts good now. Now, the biggest thing I've done, if you have an M1008, you might notice something strange about how those batteries are wired up. Now, these trucks were originally the military trucks, and they were running on a 24-volt system. That was so that they could jump-start the bigger vehicles with the NATO plugs and everything, because the bigger vehicles needed a 24-volt system. But the only thing that was really 24-volt system was the starter, and then over here, it would use this resistor to go down 12 volts for the glow plugs. So we bought a 12-volt starter for it, put that on there, wired the batteries up differently, because originally it was, that one was wired to the bus bars, then this negative would go to the positive, or this negative would go to the positive, and that would be wired. But now it's positive to positive, negative to negative. So instead of being 24-volt system, it's 12-volt system, but we still have two batteries. Another thing I had to do is back there, that's where the glow plug resistor was. Yeah, right there. So we just put a straight wire in there, and now, because you don't have to take it down to 12 volts. Also, as y'all can see down in there, hold on, let me get it to focus. That shiny part right there, that is my fuel pump. Now it's that shiny because we had to replace it. It was leaking kind of bad, but you don't want any leaks on your truck ideally. So we replaced it. But whenever we put that new one in there, the threads were messed up where it goes from the hard line, and it was leaking even worse than the first one was. Now, after going through the whole ordeal of replacing my fuel pump and it's still leaking, I decided I wasn't going to deal with that again. I wasn't going to buy a new one and replace it. Because for those of you that don't know, this is a mechanical fuel pump. Now, the way this is positioned on the engine is it's on the passenger side and it's at an angle. Now, this right here gets pushed by a push rod. So this push rod goes at an angle like that and hits it. But to get it on there, you have to put your gasket on there, get your gasket maker on there, and then keep the push rod back, which is covered in oil, so it's hard to do. Keep it back while you get this in there in the right position and put your bolts on. And all the while, that's taking place like right on the other side of that wheel well right there. So pretty crowded area in the engine. I showed it to y'all earlier. So what we ended up having to do was take the bigger plate off, wipe all the oil off the fuel, wipe all the oil off the push rod, and then just hold it. It would hold itself back in place then because it wasn't slick anymore. And then put the bigger plate on, put this on, screw it in. But we did not want to deal with that again, so we put an electric fuel pump on it. Now, obviously, if it had a mechanical fuel pump before, it's not set up for an electric fuel pump. So we've had to make some strange changes to my truck. Now, right in here in the wheel well, see those? That's where it's mounted at. Let me see if y'all can see it in there. Yeah, that's my fuel pump now. And since it didn't have the wiring for it, we took an E-stop. Now, these just go the battery and then down to the fuel pump. And before you start the truck, you got to come over here and pull it. And you can hear that that's the pump coming on. And then after you're done, you hit it and the pump turns off. Now, it's not ideal, obviously. I have the solenoids in to wire it up. I found a kit online to do it. And I should get it done this weekend. I just need help from my dad. I got to do it when he's off work. And over here, you can see that is the glow plug solenoid. And those wires with the yellow connectors coming off of them, those are not originally on there. Let me take you inside and show you what they are. So I've seen a lot of people online, their glow plug cards go out, mine's out, and they'll do a push button modification where they just turn their glow plugs into a button. So what you do is you go from the power one at the top and then you go to the post on the side of the solenoid, and whenever you give it power, or whenever you put power to that side post or, you know, do it through your button, the glow plugs come on. So that's what I've done in here. Now, I don't have a dash right now, so this is temporary, but this hole is perfect size for the plug. It's just where I have it. So anytime I press it, you might be able to hear it. That was the glow plugs turning on and off. Now this will help me actually be able to start it from inside the cab instead of having to pop the hood, take a jumper wire, go from top post to side post and everything. But one problem I've noticed is this truck needs a lot of glow plugs, and my thumb gets kind of tired from holding that down. So I'm considering removing the button and putting a switch in instead. Now this behind me, this is strange to me, because after I'd gotten done 24 volt swap or 12 volt swapping it, I knew that, or I thought that the lights wouldn't be affected, and I guess they weren't. But the other day I kept trying to turn the lights on and they wouldn't come on, but I just turned them on now and they all came on just fine. So I'm still kind of confused about that. I think it might just be loose wiring, bad connections, stuff like that. I plan on putting brighter headlights in there, not LEDs. I don't want to modernize the truck too much, but I do plan on putting brighter headlights in there and completely rewiring it. All right, I remembered something else that I've done to this since the last video. It's been a long time. But over here, you can see the master cylinder, nice and shiny, and also brake lines coming off it, nice and shiny. That's because it's new. I replaced the master cylinder, replaced all the brake lines, replaced the front calipers, and the back system I actually completely redid. Originally, they had drum brakes on them. Over here, I've still got one of the drums from, these are big old drums. But took the drum brakes off, did a disc brake conversion on it, and originally these trucks used the military brake fluid, which is .5 brake fluid, and most cars use .3, .4, or .5.1. Those are glycol based, .5 is silicone based, and if you mix those, it creates a solid mass and destroys your brake system. .5 is a lot more expensive than .3 is, so I went ahead and used .3 in this because it was a new system and there's no chance of .5 contaminating it. So now I'm using civilian brake fluid. I've got more modern brakes, and the rear actually have brakes now because I did not before. The lines had been completely rusted out, and those brakes were quite a mess when I took them open. All right, now it's time for the future plans for the truck. I know a lot of people like to get the M1008s and just, you know, keep them how they were, the military, but we're already past that. I mean, look at it, it's blue. It's got a 12 volt system in it now. We're past keeping it, you know, period accurate. Over here on this table, I actually have a turbo that I'm about to throw in it. So this is the turbo. It's a GM4 turbo off of a 6.5 liter diesel. It's in pieces right now because the bearing in it was bad. It was in half, but I was able to find rebuild kits online for not too much. These are the parts for it, the turbine and everything. So I'm gonna rebuild this and eventually throw it in there. Now back here, we have the intake off of a 6.5, the upper part of the intake off of a 6.5, the up pipe from a 6.5, the cross pipe from a 6.5, and the exhaust manifold from a 6.5. So that intake will bolt on to the top of my engine, and then everything else, it's from the same truck that the turbo's off of, so I know it will fit the turbo, and those exhaust manifolds will fit where my exhaust manifolds are. It will fit pretty easily. I'm gonna take a T off of where the oil sensor is and have a high pressure line going up to feed the oil into the turbo. And then the only thing I'm really worried about is routing the exhaust pipe. This right here is the oil drain for the turbo. Well, this is the drain pipe. This is where it's going to drain into. Now this goes in the same area that my mechanical fuel pump went in. So we knew when we got the turbo that we would eventually have to put an electrical fuel pump in, which is another reason we didn't want to fool with the mechanical fuel pump. There were also some other parts we had to get to make the turbo work for this because these 6.2s were not meant to have turbos on them. They were originally just naturally aspirated. Now it's time for the really big picture stuff that I'm thinking. So my final plan for this truck is to take it back to the OD green that it used to have, but the bumpers front and back are going to be matte black, and I plan on having some roll bars in the bed that are also matte black. I'm thinking about doing the ones that are doubles here and then just single kicker coming out the back, and I want 4 KC daylighters across the top of it. And I also want new tires because I found out the other day that these are, I think all of them are older than me, and one of them is from like 2002. All right, that's I think all I have for now. Expect some more shorts from me before I make my next long video. And don't hold me to this, but I don't think my next video will take as long as it did between this one and the last one. I'll see y'all later.